That song is a great example of the energy and emotion that we hear in bursts on this record. Brandi, what are you experiencing when you sing a song like that, especially that crescendo at the end?
First and foremost, I'm always experiencing the lyrics and trying to always keep them in mind and stay away from the autopilot button as much as possible. So for me, that's when the song comes to a point. That's when you're really saying what you want to be saying and not beating around the bush anymore.
Is that hard work to get there night after night, to really inhabit the lyrics every time?
I don't know if it's hard work or not. It definitely takes energy, but it's an energy that I really want to. It's an energy I really want to tap into, so I'm happy to do it.
And I don't know your vocal range, but it seems like you're getting close to the edge of your register there. Is it difficult to get that extreme in your performance?
I don't know if it's range as much as it's just volume, you know? It's like
Yeah.
it's like a guitar amp, you know, when you turn it up really loud, it starts to break up and distort. And that's, you know, essentially the same thing the vocals do when they get really loud is they break up and distort, and it creates you know, an element of tension. People start to get on the edge of their seats because they know something could go wrong.
Can you get there in rehearsals too, or is that something that happens live? You can just like go all the way volume-wise and just crank it and break up the amp, as you put it so well.
I feel like it's happening in rehearsals, but you know, our sound guy, we've had him for he's been our dude for like the last 15 years. He tells me that volume-wise, I'm nowhere near as quiet at sound check. I get way louder in the show than I am at sound check, even though I don't really notice that's happening.
Yeah, it's interesting what adrenaline does, right?
Yeah,
Live to
it
a
is.
voice.
Yeah, and my voice is higher too during the show. Like, where are those low notes? They're not here anymore.
Tim, you three seem to feed off each other when you play. How has your performance chemistry evolved over the years?
How's it evolved? Geez, when we first met each other, I'd say even for the first few years, we were kind of just getting to know each other really slowly. We came from totally different backgrounds musically.
Where did you guys start?
Well, punk rock and rock and roll, and Brandi was really classic country. You know, Patsy Cline, Tammy Wynette, people I've never even heard of, enormous country people. But our chemistry was always very in the beginning, very mysterious. And nowadays, I think when we play, we have an intuition that wasn't there. It's a very intuitive process, and sometimes we don't say a whole lot even when we're writing. It's just kind of one of us will be playing, the other will start singing harmony, and you know, it's a really intuitive chemistry. You know?
You said it was mysterious when you started. Is that because you guys came from such different backgrounds and yet things seem to fit together?
Yeah, you know, Brandi wanted to, as Brandi puts it, you know, she wanted to plug in and rock, and my brother and I kind of wanted to get with the acoustic guitar. She gave me the first acoustic guitar I played, you know, and we wanted to kind of unplug. She wanted to plug in, and so there was
That
kind of
wasn't
this
a generous gift. That
wasn't
a piece of junk.
kind of a dichotomy going on with styles. But yeah, it was just a very mysterious thing. Like, maybe we should, is this what unplugging should be, you know?
Yeah. Trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it felt really unnatural, at least to me in the beginning. But you know, there was something there because on a personal level, we were all on the same page, you know. Well, me and Tim obviously, but with Brandi too. And as the years have kind of gone by, and we get closer as a family, like a family on the road traveling together, but also like a family at home, you know, married to each other's siblings and what have you. No, I'm serious, you know.
I know.
But that relationship has gotten kind of stronger. We've gotten closer, and I think it's reflects musically too.
And Phil, what were your first impressions of Brandi? If you can take us back there.
Like, what planet is this girl from? Kind of. Like, we had met her, you know, in recording in the same studio, and one of us was upstairs and one downstairs, and, you know, oh, who's this person, you know, singing? Oh, it's Brandi. Yeah, she's here. You should go meet her, and kind of cool. And then, she opened her mouth to sing, and it was like you could not believe the sound that was coming out of her. And, I mean, that's just her voice. And then personally, you know, she's we hit it off really well. Like one of those people you meet just every once in a while in your life where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is my people, you know?
Yeah.
Where, there's nothing's too personal and just really close right away, right off the bat.
And Brandi, what were your first impressions of these two?
I was really enamored with them. I really liked the band that they were in. I couldn't believe what they were able to do as far as harmonies. You know, I mean, you've heard of sibling harmonies, but these guys are twins and their harmonies are eerily intuitive. And I was just really overcome by how talented they were and how charismatic they were. And I just thought, man, if I get really lucky, I might be able to play in a band with these guys. And I wasn't 21 yet, and I would go see some of their shows out at clubs, and they would try to sneak me in and, like, you know, let me push in an amplifier or whatever without having to show my ID. And I was just really, really enamored with them. And part of me knew that something was happening and that we would end up probably always being together in one way or another.
Is there a key ingredient that makes you guys click?
I don't know what it is. Maybe these guys can articulate it, but whatever it is, I would say it's trust and influence. Like,
Okay.
I allow myself, and I don't even allow myself, it's just I'm naturally really influenced by the two of them. And if they have an idea or if they have a problem with one of my ideas, my first instinct is to trust that there's a reason for it. And then my second instinct is to be influenced. And then usually my third reaction is to strike a balance between the two. So those two things for me are what I think lends itself to the chemistry that makes us so productive. It's just trust and influence that we have about each other, you know.
Would you say the same, Tim?
Yeah, I would, and I'm not sure what made us hit it off so well, but I mean, in the beginning, but yeah, we definitely, you know, trust each other, you know, musically and all aspects of our life, you know.
And Phil, you said personally you guys clicked as friends. Was that trust creatively there right away too?
I think so, yeah. Even though our influences are really like, I mean, they almost couldn't be any more different, but I don't know what it is. There's something else there that that just keeps us in the same space. But I do feel like we were meant to be together, like writing and playing music. I feel strongly about that.
Yeah, because we started hanging out, and then we started getting matching tattoos, and then we started hanging out, like, you know, casually and doing, like, weird little kid things, like building pogo sticks out of leftover pieces of wood and looking for frogs and going on hikes. And, you know, just we started doing normal things, too, that bonded us. And before long, the music was just kind of a part of what we do when we're together.
That's a pretty unique thing
Yeah.
To have. I'd imagine you guys are grateful for that
Yeah.
all the time. Okay, I want to ask you about this shift to working on your own more independently. Before this, you recorded 5 records for the Columbia label.
Uh-huh.
The upside being with a big label, supposedly stability, opportunity. But there's also the danger that an artist can get micromanaged a bit creatively. Is that something you were feeling?
That happened in phases, on and off. You'd go from feeling a bit maybe micromanaged to maybe a bit ignored, you know, and then back and forth. And I think that's just kind of a normal cycle for a band on a major label. And the thing is that in this time that we live in, you know that's going to happen before you sign to a major label. They're not the root of all evil at all, but that is that process, you know. So you definitely have to go in there with a strong sense of self. And it's every kid's dream that plays guitar to be on a major label, especially Columbia.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing that could make me regret that decade. But it was a great, it was a tool that we're able to use now on our own.
Tim, it's a risk making that jump. Did you feel apprehension, anxiousness, worry?
Actually, you know what? Surprisingly, no, none of that. You know, I've felt like those last 10 years just kind of, they set up what we were able to do. And I feel like for a while before we got out of that part of our career and lives, like we were kind of ready for it. We were kind of just getting a little big for our clothes and just ready for a new outfit, you know. And so I felt, we all felt it was coming. I think we were all more excited than, you know, scared. I mean, there's a little bit of fear going into any kind of change, but
5 albums is a long time.
Yeah, and I think we were just ready for a really new, fresh breath of air, you know?
Is that how you felt too? Is time for a new experience creatively?
Even like a few years before it happened, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like Brandi said, we got so much from them. You know, they put us on the road in a van and got us around and helped us like kind of establish our whole thing everywhere. And so
that's the upside of that sort of business situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The cycle too of being on a major label doesn't really ever get like quote unquote old because the turnover rate's so high. You always have a new team. Like every record, there's a new A&R person and like new people. But the ones that were consistently there the whole time are like family to us now.
Yeah, I don't think people necessarily know how long-term that kind of relationship is. 5 albums is a while.
Yeah.
You're working with these people for a long time. They do become family, for sure.
I still count it as 6 because of our live album.
Yeah.
For sure, because I think that, like, I don't know, I felt like we worked harder on that live album than almost any of the other ones in post.
Okay, this is really interesting to me. Brandi, going into the recording, you made a pact not to practice the songs and not to demo them. Mm-hmm. Why?
As a knee-jerk reaction to being on the label for so long, part of going in to make your album is that the album kind of has to prove itself before it becomes an album. So you sort of have to exhaust the songs in a way that can be really good because they become their best self. Mm-hmm. But it can be really bad because there's this really like essential moment that happens over the course of a song's life. If you can quantify it, where you've learned the song just well enough to play it all the way through, but not well enough to have any command over it. And so there's still a real vulnerability to the song. No matter how bombastic the song is, that feeling of the song still having some control over the band goes away, no matter what anybody says.
And this is why musicians often suffer from a condition we call demoitis.
Yes, yeah, they call it that. And I always used to find that term really insulting in the studio when producer would say that to us, because they would tell us that we had demoitis, and what they'd be really saying was that we were attached to the innocence of our song before it had to be put on trial. And it's true.
What do you think about that magical moment in a song's life?
A song definitely, they all have their different place where they arc, but it definitely is most likely in the beginning, and you can feel it happen, when you're doing something like, hey, there's this really cool thing that's happening with the rhythm of the drums and your vocals, and then instead of it just happening, you're trying to recreate what you'd done.
Yes.
And it kind of takes on this different life, and yeah, it's a slippery thing because sometimes you don't hit it for a long time,
Phil, how else did the creative freedom with this album manifest itself in the studio?
Oh my gosh, it just happened so fast. I don't think it's ever happened so fast before in the studio for us. And so, we went in there the first night, they were setting up microphones, and we all gathered around, played a song a few times, and we had our first song. The next day we showed up and did it again. It just it all happened. I don't even, almost can't even remember how it happened because every song we just went out there and, grabbed a guitar and showed the drummer while sitting on a chair while he patted on his lap. And then we were in the room with microphones. And the first time we played it where nobody messed up, which was usually like the first or second take, we just kept it. So I think, to me, I can hear it when I listen to it. It's all happening.
I can hear it too.
So energetically that it sounds live.
These songs are undoubtedly getting better. They're getting better. We're coming up with new things. They're settling into a tempo. They feel more powerful. And it's, on one hand, it's hard to hear them get better and know that the one that's on the recording. Yeah. But on the other hand, we've done 5 albums of them being the best that they can be as far as, tightness goes and power goes. So it makes me happy to know that there's this really innocent version of every song on the album for once, and it's not a demo.
That's an interesting creative ebb and flow, right? Between wanting to make something that's loose and organic, and then other times you might want to make something that is pristine and perfect.
Yeah, or powerful,
Yeah, very interesting. I've read that there was a certain amount of storming out of rooms and tears and hugs as well during the recording. Brandi, why did it get so emotional?
Well, there was a lot of hormones happening, if I'm really honest with you,
Okay.
because, my wife and I had just done IVF. Mm-hmm. And we both had a part in it. And Catherine was 9 months pregnant. The baby was just born a couple days after we finished the album. And she was there in the studio, and I was there, and we were preparing to be mothers for the first time. And it was really, really intense. And the twins' kids were there, and it was not a musically professional setting, I should say. And that's awesome to me, especially in retrospect, but it was definitely a situation that lent itself to really just being able to be your real self and having that be okay if you're just annoyed and it's like you've done this song too many times and the engineer still doesn't have that kick drum sounding just right and you feel like you don't want to do it anymore and you just kind of need to go down to the creek and have a beer,
Tim, how was it for you?
I only remember really a couple emotional points. Because everything felt like it was going pretty natural. There's always going to be spots where people have different opinions, like, hey, you know what, that's the take because this, and I like this take because of this. And, and it's such an important thing to everyone for different reasons. It's really, you know, you got to find your moments that are really, really important to you and say, hey, you know what? I got to say, we can't do that to this song. We have to do this. There was a couple of moments, you know, like.
But the emotionality of the experience, how
Emotionality.
was it? Yeah.
It was
having all the family around and
you know, it didn't seem too heavy to me. I mean, I'd gone through the stressful thing of having a new kid a few months before that, and it was just it felt good to have. I know where Brandi was coming from, feeling, you know, wanting to just nest and get ready and like this huge things on the horizon. But for me, it just felt like a really, you know, it wasn't a huge emotional process. I mean, hugely than any other record. I think a lot of that was like.
He's saying that, but he's the one that stormed out.
You know what?
We'll wait till the making of DVD comes out, and then we'll see. Yeah.
There was this one day in particular where it was so hot outside, and the kids were running around, and it was just nice outside. And Bear Creek is on a creek, and we were working on this song called "Wilder We're Chained," and we had decided to do it around one microphone to get the chorus is really really tight. We wanted this like Crosby, Stills and Nash harmony perfection thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was really hot. And our faces were just so close together for so long, like 30 takes. It was like I could just smell their faces, and our breath was just in each other's breath. And it was like, it was just, we wanted to be running around like everybody else was running around. And we were getting pretty burnt out. Yeah. And it was getting tighter and tighter and lamer and lamer. And so at one point we just like gave up and kind of didn't talk for a little while, and then reconvened on this blanket out by the creek drinking beers. And there were speakers. And the engineers and our families were inside arguing about what the best take was. And we were sitting there just listening to come out these speakers outside, and we could hear the creek on one side of us and this really tight recording on the other side of us. And we thought, you know what? Screw it. Let's get a microphone out here and just record the song out here. And it's going to sound like crap because there's no proper acoustics, and it's going to be outdoors, and you're going to hear cars and birds. And so we did, just to get in a looser headspace about it.
Yeah.
And we recorded it to the tight track coming through those speakers, and it just had such a otherworldly sound that we just took the two takes, the outdoor creek take and the inside enraged take, and just smashed them together.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean when you said that in retrospect, all the emotionality and everything is a nice memory?
Yeah, it's a really good memory for me. It's just human.
How else did family responsibilities play into this album, Phil?
Man, to be honest, it was a little crazy at times in the studio, just with the kids and like the family around. But I think I remember getting pissed off a couple times, just kind of getting frustrated and stuff. But for the most part, I liked having them all around, and like I liked the whole emotional part of it too. Because the last couple records we've made, we not that we really do it the same way every time, but it's kind of like we show up at the studio, just the band, and like we work away at this thing, and it was kind of cool to have like a different emotional setting and stuff to, maybe it was better to help kind of stimulate something new.
Chaos is good. It's good with us,
Yeah, and it wasn't complete chaos. It was something different. It just felt good. Like, with the baby and stuff coming too, it just felt like something was happening. And the more we recorded it, to me, it seemed like the better things were sounding, and like we all knew it was going to be like our best record about a few songs into it. So things started getting even more kind of
the energy's building.
Yeah, just exciting,
Speaking of harmonies that you brought up, Brandi, the next song you're about to perform, The Eye, is typical of the three-part harmonies that you've embraced on this album. In the past, you've said you've had to kind of hide those instincts a bit. How come?
I mean, first of all, when we started embracing three-part harmony, it wasn't like the cool thing to do in Seattle, it was the late 90s. And so it was an overproduced, kind of cheesy dynamic, or as it was perceived, I think, by some of our peers. And the three of us were really kind of hell-bent on it. Me from the May the Circle Be Unbroken and the classic country and western Appalachian harmony, and the twins from the Beatles and the Beach Boys. And we were kind of still doing it and being these kind of defectors, doing these harmonies in our practices and stuff. And we slowly started embracing it more and more. But when you have a band called Brandi Carlile, it's difficult. It's a hard sell to say, hey, we're going to sing three-part harmony on like a lot of things, because the people that produce the records and the people that put the records out still want to see those harmonies as background vocals.
Yeah.
And that's complicated for me because I don't really feel them that way.
They're incredibly tight. I mean, as you pointed out earlier, even for twins, pretty stunningly tight. Why was now the time to unleash that?
Your guess is as good as mine. It just felt right. One day we were listening to Tim play a new song, and an old song that he has came to mind. And I realized that together they could make one really, really great song. And he sort of smashed them together, and we were all so into it that we all just started singing it. And nobody was singing just the chorus or just an ooh or just an ah. We were just singing it. And it felt like there was like this kind of third Everly Brother vibe where nobody even knew what the melody was anymore. And it just had to stay that way.
Well, we're going to get a taste of that in a moment. Thanks to you all for being here. Very special record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.